Okay, I think we're going to get going again. I feel kind of guilty. I think there are probably a lot of great conversations going down, but time to get the party going again. All right. So yeah, there was one question that came in after the last session that didn't get a response because it came in through the activity stream. So when the next speaker comes up, he'll address it real quickly because it's a relatively standard knowledge-aware type question. And also, I misspoke earlier about the happy hour. That's going to start immediately after the session. So it'll be, I think, 4:15 or 4:30, something like that. So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't think you had to kill 45 minutes between the last speaker and the happy hour. So let's see. Next, we have Mr. Josh Kullis. Josh is a consulting application engineer and a technical services manager with Auros Knowledge Systems. Over the last 7 years, Josh has supported numerous knowledge-aware initiatives in the area of program management, designed for manufacturing, and lessons learned. He believes knowledge-aware is a universally applicable technique that provides businesses with a decided advantage over their competition when deployed at a working and/or enterprise level. Josh holds a Bachelor in Business Administration in Management Information Systems and Finance from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. So what do you say, Josh? You ready? Let's rock. And then the question that came in that he's going to address really quickly, that it came in over the activity stream, and it said, how do you identify what K-Packs need to be delivered? So, all right, Josh.
Thank you, Dan. So like Dan said, my name is Josh Kullis. I'm an application engineer with Auros and a technical services manager. And over the next 90 minutes, we're going to walk you guys through an interactive exercise. So Jeff and Steve were up here and they were talking a lot about concepts and why knowledge aware is important, how it can be achieved. What we're going to now try to do is make all of that come to life. So to do that, we have a couple different things that are going to be the goal of this particular exercise. So we want to simulate a practical application of knowledge aware. So we talked about it conceptually, but we want to actually put everyone in a position where they can experience knowledge aware, capturing information, and then delivering it into a process. So we want to demonstrate that knowledge capture and the activation of knowledge once it is captured. And then we want to try and have a little bit of fun. So we've simplified a lot of the content that we're going to go through, and we're going to do some things that hopefully are enjoyable for you while we also experience knowledge capture and activation. So before we get into explaining the actual exercise itself, I'll address the question that Dan had come in. How do we determine which knowledge packets get provisioned? We'll do that through a different system of tagging. So we'll experience a little bit of that in the interactive exercise. We, at Auros, we call those extended elements. So attributes or tags, people can refer to them as, and essentially the context of the project or the program or the exercise that you're working on will allow us to identify which pieces of information need to be delivered in the process at a certain point in time. And we'll experience a little bit of that as we go through this exercise here over the next hour and a half. So just a logistical explanation of the exercise. We're going to split the room up into two different teams. So those two teams will represent companies or functional groups, whatever they might be. We're going to split up into two, though. Then within each team, we're going to have 4 different groups. So if the team is the company, each of the individual groups will be functional units, divisions, project teams, product lines, but individual areas within that company that are, when put together, are going to be trying to achieve a common goal. The objective for each of our groups will be to open up a wooden chest. So like I said, we've simplified the content so that we can really kind of hammer home the actual concepts of knowledge aware. So the objective, which would be similar to a product launch or a successful design review, in our case, an implementation of the software. You could even use it for a hiring campaign or a marketing campaign, but the objective is going to be signaled or signified by this opening of a wooden chest. So the application engineers are going to lead the different groups through the activity, and they'll have the chest for each group that's going to be opened. In order to open that wooden chest, we're going to have 2 4-digit combination locks. There'll be one on the side of the chest, one in the front of the chest. And those combination locks In order to open them up, we'll have 2 puzzles per group. So each group is individually going to accomplish 2 different puzzles, and those puzzles will represent 1 number that goes into your combination. So we have teams that are going to represent the companies, then our 4 groups will represent divisions, functions, product lines, project teams. The objective, which could be similar to a product launch or a design review, a marketing campaign, will be represented by the wooden chest. 2 puzzles per group, and those 2 puzzles are going to represent work experiences. So similar things that we go through today, where we have an experience, we learn something, and then we want to capture that learning. We're going to go through these puzzles to represent those work experiences, and then the combination numbers that go into opening the locks will represent the learnings, the collective learnings that come from those particular work experiences. So the first thing that we're going to do is split up into the 2 teams. So there's an application engineer in each section. So if the application engineers will stand up, I'll introduce them, and then we'll tell you guys who is going to be on what team. Okay, so hopefully you guys were able to solve the puzzle that the application engineer gave you. If you weren't able to solve it, hopefully they gave you the answer. That's what they were supposed to do. And now that we've understood and we've gone through this work experience, we have collective learnings that come from the work experience. So from that work experience, to represent the collective learnings, each application engineer has 1 digit that goes into the combination of the locks that open up the box, which is the objective overall for the company. So we want to open up the box. There's 1 combination number that is a collective learning experience that came from the exercise that we went through. So what we're now going to demonstrate is how to capture that using this knowledge-aware approach. So what Steve and Jeff talked about a little bit earlier was structuring things so that they're granular, they're modular, and they're actionable. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a knowledge packet. And once we do this here on stage, then you guys are all going to create your own individual knowledge packets for your collective learning. But when we open it up, we're going to have a standard structure. So that standard structure is going to allow us to visually digest the information. So a lot of the failure modes that we'll see today will be information is captured in a Word document or an Excel file or a PowerPoint, and those things can be very difficult for end users to digest if they're not familiar with that structure of the information. So with the knowledge packet, we're going to be able to structure that information so that similar content, the rich text, the multimedia, the functional models of the information are all presented in a standard way. So that information can vary from group to group or from function to function, but the visual representation of it is going to be standard. So we've set up a template for this particular exercise where the first piece of information that you'll put in is your group name. You'll then place in the work experience, so the puzzle that you completed. And then as part of the collective learning, or the part that's representing the collective learning, it's the position on the lock and then what the number is for that position. So what we're going to do now is I think the application engineers are going to ask for a volunteer within the group, and then they're going to walk through authoring the knowledge packet so that we can then set up the context for how it gets delivered. So the question that we had a little bit earlier about how do we know what to send where and when, that's done through this system of tagging or extended elements or attributes. So for this particular exercise, we're trying to open the wooden chest. We have some teams that have red locks, some teams that have blue locks. The combination for each is different. So we need to specify what color lock we are. We then need to specify which position the lock is on. So is it on the side of the box or is it on the front of the box? And then the type of lock is going to be a combination lock versus a padlock. So as we author our knowledge packets, we're setting them up to be provisioned into processes as we move forward through the future. So we'll kick it back to the application engineering team, and now we'll start to author our knowledge packets for the work experience that we just went through. Okay. So hopefully everyone was able to author their knowledge packet. So when we start talking about making our processes knowledge aware, what we want to do is we have 4 different groups, right, on 2 different teams. And the 4 groups within the same company, we want to be able to cascade the learnings that they have across the other groups. So we don't want group A to have to go through the effort of solving problem D and then have to relearn everything that that group learned. We want our processes to be knowledge aware. So we want the group over here to benefit from the learning that happened in the back of the room. So in order to do that, we author the knowledge packet. We set it up in a format that allows us to make our process knowledge aware, so that now when I come in, I didn't go through any of the experiences with any of the groups, but if I come in and I say I want to open up a combination lock that's red, I search for that information or I build my grid, and it's automatically provisioning me with all of the learnings that the different exercise groups had. So I don't have to go through any of those experiences to actually understand how to open one of these combination locks, because my process is knowledge aware. So if I'm a new engineer, or if I'm an engineer that came from a different organization, or if I'm a new marketing employee, or our application engineers on our team, like Steve talked about, if I'm trying to implement the software, or I'm trying to launch a product, or I'm trying to go through a successful design review, being able to provision that information to me when I need it and where I need it is going to be really, really powerful. So when we get to the point where we have this information provisioned, we then need to start to track and monitor that information and how it's being applied to our projects. So in order to do that, that's where we create the assessment control. So I'm going to create an assessment control, and it's going to allow me to then track and manage how my wooden chest is being opened within the context of my project. So here, I'm being provisioned the information on how to open the front lock. So there's 2 combination numbers. So now I don't have to figure those out. I have them already, and I just have to go through the experience to figure out the other 2 combination numbers. So the next thing we're going to do is each individual group is going to create an assessment control for their particular locks, so that eventually, as we go through this knowledge-aware process, we can open up the wooden chest with only having to go through 2 work experiences instead of 8. So the next thing we're going to do is kick it back to the application engineers in the crowd, and they're going to walk us through creating this assessment control to make this process knowledge aware so that we can learn from the different groups. Okay, so hopefully you guys were able to create an assessment control. You get the information that the other groups delivered to you in your assessment control. So we've gone through one exercise or one puzzle that is going to represent a work experience. And then just by our process being knowledge aware, we're going to get delivered the work experiences of the other 3 groups. So we can see the assessment control here that I created. I didn't go through any of the work experiences, and I'm already being provisioned 4 pieces of information based on the work experiences that the red lock group went through. So I have the combination number for the first position, I have the combination number for the 3rd position of the front lock, and then as we go down here, the 3rd and 1st of the side lock. So just based on that process being knowledge aware, the information's being delivered to me or provisioned to me because I'm opening combination locks that are red. So again, we've simplified the content of this greatly, as you can see. The knowledge packets can convey a lot of different things. So we have a lot of different customers conveying a lot of different, very complex concepts. And the knowledge-aware process is going to allow us to make those things granular. It's going to make them modular, and we're going to be able to deliver them into a process. So the next thing that we want to do is we still need 4 more combinations, right? So this is good for projects who have started and they get information delivered to them and it's all here. But what about as different work groups are learning things after a project has been kicked off? So let's say we're trying to launch a product in Tennessee, and we've got a team over in Arizona that learned something while that Tennessee product launch is going off. We don't want them to have to manually communicate those things back and forth. So as things are being learned, we want to dynamically interject them into the process so that we don't have to make repeating mistakes and we don't make the same mistake over and over and over. So how do we do that? The first thing we have to do is solve another puzzle. So, like we did the first time, all of our application engineers have a second puzzle. They're going to walk you through solving that puzzle, and then we're going to go through the process of capturing that information. Hopefully it'll be a little bit faster this time, as it's the second time around. And then once we do that, we're going to show how we can deliver information into the process as projects are going on, so we don't have to have this all done up front at the start of a project. So I'll kick it back to the application engineers. We'll solve our second puzzle. We'll come back up here in about 15 minutes, and we'll show how we can deliver that information into an ongoing process. Okay, so similar to the way that we captured our information last time, we have the knowledge packet. It's been structured so that it can become knowledge aware. Our process is knowledge aware. We're going to deliver the information into the process. So the same way that maybe people didn't do emails in the past, and then they got used to responding to emails after time when email just became something that was part of the process, part of our routine. Knowledge packets can do that as well. So we've already seen the way that exercises from 3 different groups can be communicated to the other group through this knowledge-aware technique. So as people start to understand that now that I've learned something from my work experience, I can go into the knowledge base, I can author a knowledge packet, and it's then going to get delivered when and where it's needed. It increases the amount of effort, or not the amount of effort, but the amount of times that people want to do that, right? If you go author something in a database where you know people have to go and find it, your desire to create that information in that database is going to be lower than if you know the next time that information is needed, it's going to be delivered to the right place at the right time. So we just went through work experience number 2. Again, we've simplified everything here, so we're using the numbers and the combination locks to represent the collective learnings that came from that work experience. And we're going to author our second knowledge packet. So we've talked about how do we get information into ongoing work processes. The first step in that is to author the knowledge packet, and then we'll demonstrate how a knowledge-aware approach actually delivers that information into the process as the group is working on their project. So we're now going to author the second knowledge packet. We'll do that quickly, then we'll come right back up here to the screen. So it'll be about 2 minutes, walk through the creation of the second knowledge packet. That'll give us all 8 combinations, and then we'll give a demonstration on how that gets delivered into the process. We'll have you open up the chests and find out what's inside. All right. Okay, so now we have the need and we have the desire to create our knowledge in knowledge packets. We know that it's going to get delivered into the process the next time someone's doing a similar project. We know it'll get delivered into ongoing processes as well. So how does that work? So we have 4 different groups within our company. They've all gone through work experiences, and those work experiences resulted in some sort of learning. That learning is represented by the combination lock number. So I have my assessment control that's here. The next time that I open it up, so I'm going to refresh the screen. The system is going to automatically provision that information that was just learned in the second round of exercises into my process or into my project. So I've gone through one exercise. I created my sheet and got all 4 learnings, so mine and the other 3 from the other 3 groups. Now as I'm going through this exercise, I still needed to learn more things because we only had 4 combinations or 4 numbers to the combination. We go through the second round of learnings, and now the system is telling me that there are things that need to be taken into account for my particular project or my particular process. So as soon as I put those things into my process, now we can open this up and we see that we have all 4 combination numbers to the lock on the front. If we open up the one to the side, we also have all 4 combination numbers to the ones on the side. So we only went through 2 of those work experiences. We only have collective learnings from 2 of the experiences, but we're benefiting from all 8 of those work experiences. So we don't have to go through the pain of figuring out those problems to know that our process is going to deliver them back to us. We have confidence in the process because it's knowledge aware and because we're using techniques like this particular assessment control and the knowledge packet itself. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go through the exercise of accomplishing the goal. We're going to open up the wooden chest, and then we'll come back up here and we'll answer any questions if you guys have them. So we'll give you just a couple minutes to open the chests based on the information that everyone's learned, and then we'll come back up for questions. Okay, so just to recap, you guys should have been provisioned with all the information that was required for you to open up your combination locks and open up the wooden chest. You know, the raffle tickets for the Amazon Echo at the welcome reception a little bit later were in the chest. So hopefully you were handed a raffle ticket as well. If you weren't, come and see us afterwards and we'll get you one. But hopefully what you were able to see through this exercise is how we can take the process of going through experiences, learning things, and we can apply this knowledge-aware technique to it, and allows us to gain the benefits across an entire enterprise or across work groups or across product lines by communicating things dynamically and provisioning them into the workflow. So we create our knowledge packets, we do it in the right granular, modular, actionable format. They then start to be delivered into the process at certain points in time when and where they're needed. So are there any questions about just the process in general or anything that came up in the activity? We have mics if someone has questions. If not, then I think we will bring Dan back up to get on to our next presentation.
Thank you, Josh. That was low testing. Okay, we're good. Yeah, that was fun to kind of sit back and observe. Really cool participation, and a lot of people clearly just really dialed in to, have a lot of fun with that project, so thank you.